Assemblyman Carroll.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I wanted to sponsor my yield for some questions.
Assemblywoman Stender.
Certainly.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Assemblywoman, let's just assume you wish to purchase a handgun today. What do you have to do?
I have to make application. I have to go and see the chief of police. I have to go through a background check. I have to file a process for it to be reviewed.
Right. Now, let's assume for the moment that the police chief denies you an application. What are your rights under that circumstance?
You are able to appeal it, and you go to Superior Court in an appeal process.
Correct. And under your bill, what would happen if someone is on the terror watch list?
Same thing would happen. They would be able to appeal it into the Superior Court.
How?
They would have been denied the permit, so they would appeal back to the chief of police or the superintendent.
Would they know why they had been denied?
They would know that the check had been denied because of the review by the federal government, because that is all checked as part of your background check.
You are aware, of course, that the terror watch list is secret. Is that correct?
It is not secret. It is not shared, but federal agencies that have it's not shared with the general public. And, you know, going back to when we first started to fight the war on terror, it was easily understood why it was that we weren't telling terrorists that we knew they were terrorists. I think that's
well, now, if you're on the list, don't you think you have the right to know?
You have a right to inquire, and there is an appeal process that exists for the terrorist list.
To whom would that appeal be lodged?
You would appeal to the agency that has denied you.
Does the New Jersey Superior Court, or the chief of police in your particular municipality, have the right to second-guess that federal determination?
They would have the right to have a hearing and to bring the facts forward for review.
And so the federal government would then appear before the New Jersey Superior Court and tell the person involved that, yes, they are on the list, or no, they are not?
I believe that the federal, the FBI, would come forward and make their case for why they were denied.
You're aware that if you go to the TSA today and ask if you're on the list, they won't tell you?
I am.
And you're aware if you appeal, they won't tell you how the appeal came out?
The federal government is tasked with keeping us safe. This is a common sense piece of legislation that's been put forward because if you are on a list because the FBI and other federal agencies have reasonable belief that you are a terrorist, you should be denied a permit. We know that people that have been on the list have in fact gotten guns. That doesn't make me feel safer, and I can't imagine it would make you feel safer either.
Have any of those people ever committed a crime with one of the guns they legally got?
I'm glad you asked that question.
I wouldn't miss the opportunity for the world.
Back in August 2009, Major Hassan walked into a store in Killeen, Texas, and purchased a pistol that was used at the massacre of Fort Hood.
And what did Major Hassan do for a living?
I presume he was in the service, but he went through the National Instant Background Check. But the information was never shared with the Joint Terrorism Task Force in Washington, which was aware that Hassan had repeatedly contacted a radical imam suspected of having ties to al-Qaeda, and if that had been shared, he would have been denied. That was then followed by an incident in Little Rock, Arkansas, where police had another incident where a man opened fire at an Army recruiting station, killing a soldier. That man was under FBI investigation for possible ties to terror and traveled to Yemen, yet he was not denied as well.
Okay. If you are on the list, you personally now, like Senator Kennedy found himself...
I'm not on the list, let's be clear.
How do you know?
I guess I don't, but I do travel on an airplane and have never been stopped.
Now, you know John Lewis also, Congressman John Lewis was also on the list.
There have been problems with the list. We know that. They've gotten high profile, and there is a review process that exists so that people can, in fact, seek to have that fixed.
Right.
And it's not an easy process. It's not one that's maybe as timely as we would like, but when it comes to the safety and well-being of people, I think that it's a reasonable process for us to expect that this will be checked, because I, for one, don't want known terrorists having access to weapons.
So we should trade our security, or our liberty, for a little temporary security then?
I didn't say that, but I think that known terrorists should not be able to purchase guns, and that's what this piece of legislation does.
And you are aware, by the way, this is one of the very few instances where the NRA...
Excuse me, Assemblyman Carroll. I must ask that there be no applause or no verbal affirmations. This is a session of the New Jersey General Assembly, and I would respectfully ask that you respect the decorum of our chamber.
You are aware that this is one of the very few issues on which the ACLU and the NRA happen to find themselves on the same page, are you not?
I think that if people are being blocked from flying on an airplane, then we should certainly know that they are not able to buy a weapon.
Are there any other constitutional rights you feel are subject to this sort of summary denial?
I think that reasonable protections for all of us make sense, and that this is a reasonable protection that terrorists should not be able to purchase guns.
And so should terrorists be allowed to vote?
Today in front of us we have a bill that speaks to the issue of purchasing a firearm. This piece of legislation would deny that terrorist access to the gun in the state of New Jersey. That makes sense to me.
Let's be clear. It's not a terrorist, is it? It's an American citizen who's never been convicted of anything. Is that correct?
There are American citizens on that list, as well as people from other countries. We know that it's a list that's broad, but it is done because of known activities that link those individuals to terrorist activities. And terrorist activities, of course, are things that intend to hurt the people in this country, to destroy lives and property.
Well, self-evidently, none of the people that we're talking about here today are not citizens, because obviously you can't buy a gun in New Jersey if you're not a citizen. Is that correct?
The right to buy, I agree that people should have the right to buy guns legally. I support that. I'm not opposed to the Second Amendment. But I believe that this piece of legislation is common sense, it's reasonable, and terrorists should not have guns.
So coming back to it again, just to reiterate, American citizens who have never been convicted of anything except finding themselves on a list which is secret, which they have no idea how they got on and have no idea how they get off, should be denied a basic constitutional right.
But they have a redress, they have a recourse, it's in the law, and it exists in place for the appeal process to come off of the list and, in fact, to be able to buy a gun legally if they are not on the list.
Madam Speaker, on the bill, if I may.
Beg your pardon, Assemblyman.
On the bill, if I may.
On the bill.
Thank you very much. With all due respect to the sponsor, that's not how it works. You cannot appeal one of these determinations to the Superior Court of New Jersey. It would have no jurisdiction to compel whatever agency maintains these lists to come forward and offer proof as to how one got on, whether one is on, or how one goes about getting off. The simple fact of the matter is this is the equivalent of a death sentence. If you are on that list and the feds don't take you off, no matter how unreasonable their behavior might be, the simple fact is in New Jersey you will be denied one of your basic constitutional rights. If there were a way to go about knowing that you were on the list, had due process to get yourself taken off the list, that would be a different story. Unfortunately, that circumstance does not exist. This relic of the Bush administration, although I'm delighted to find out that you support something that George Bush did, is a mistake, and we should not adopt it here. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Assemblyman Carroll. Madam Speaker, please open the machine for a vote. Are all recorded who wish to be recorded and properly recorded? Madam Clerk, close the machine. Take a tally.